This is the notes for e-learning, or if you're absent and missed out, need to catch up. So we're finding equations of perpendicular bisectors. And so if you picked up the graph paper, I would use it, or even if you just want to make your own graph. I think the more visual that you have, the better you can see what's going on. So perpendicular bisectors, they go through the midpoint and they're perpendicular to the original line. So when you make a quick sketch of this, we're talking about these 2 points. Okay, so I would suggest you find the slope using your graph paper or a picture, but you can use the formula if you want. It's going over down 2 and over 4, so the slope is -1/2. Okay, so that means the perpendicular slope is +2. So I know at least I have y equals 2x plus b. And then I need to make sure I go through the midpoint. And again, you have graph paper. If you go down 2 over 4, you could also go down 1 and over 2, and that would get you your midpoint. You can use the midpoint formula, or you can just know that the average of 1 and 5 is 3. That's what the midpoint formula is. The average of -1 and -3 is -2. So it's no different than finding the equation of a regular line, but your slope and your point come from different places. So I'm just going to plug that in for x and y, and then solve. So my final answer is y equals 2x minus 8. And if you look, it's going to hit somewhere down there, right angle. Let's go to the next one. A border canal divides 2 countries. Bridge AB, that's this bridge, connects to its banks. Point C is the midpoint, so they're giving us the midpoint of the bridge. And the equation of line AB is y equals 1/2 x plus 6. Find the equation of the border that equally divides it. So perpendicular bisector equally divides because it's at a right angle and it goes through the midpoint. So I'm looking at this line right here, and the slope there is 1/2. That's my bridge. So the slope that I need is -2. So y equals -2x plus b. And we're finding the equation of the line through that point. So I'm going to plug in 17 for y, 10 for x. So -20 plus b equals 17, b equals 37. So the equation would be y equals -2x plus 37. So again, your steps, if you did the notes, the steps are the same for any line. Just for this, it's how you get your slope and your point. To find the equation of a line, you need a slope and a point. Okay, robot vacuum cleaner. Go ahead and pause this one. Think about what this means. A robot vacuum cleaner is running back and forth along line AB, and then it needs to get back to its charging station. So the question, they give you some different values, and it says the charging station is point E. So our charging station is right here, and it has to return to that E, and it's programmed so it will turn towards E such that ED is the shortest distance. The shortest distance, if you're going back and forth here, and someone standing here, the shortest distance is always the right angle. Anything else is going to be a little bit longer. So we're finding the equation of that line, which is not a perpendicular bisector because it's not bisecting, it's just perpendicular. So what I need to do is find the slope of AB. And it goes from 10 to 5 over here, so it's 5. And from 4 to 19, which is 15. So the slope is negative 5/15, which is negative 1/3. So I need to use the slope of the perpendicular to that, so the opposite reciprocal, and I needed to go through point E. Again, to find the equation of a line, you need a point and you need a slope. So B equals negative 15. So Y equals 3x minus 15. And again, if you were to draw that line in, you can at least get an idea that you're close to where you need to be. Not a perpendicular bisector question. Don't assume that every question is the same. Read and make sure you understand the situation. So one of the applications of this is kind of blurry, but one of the applications of this that we're leading into is something called Voronoi diagrams. And you won't make one this complicated, but this is just a stretch of the United States. I don't know if you can tell, like this is New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado. And these little dots are the airport. So this is any airport in that area. Notice how many there are concentrated right here. Some of them are small airports. So if you're inside one of these little polygons, anywhere inside of that dot is the closest airport to you. Okay, it's used in GPS. It's used in emergency. A lot of times hospitals, knowing where those. There's other factors that go into play. Could be traffic and that kind of thing. But we're talking about any of these little polygons. Okay, and so these polygons are made, and you won't be able to tell very easily, but if you're connecting perpendicular bisectors, so there's a perpendicular bisector between those airports. There's a perpendicular bisector between those airports. There's a perpendicular bisector between those airports. And so this shape that's made up at the end, there's some rules for erasing as well, but those give you the closest distance. Okay. If you're feeling kind of foggy, this is from the notes from before. You want to write down especially these steps. I think you know how to find the equation of a line, but the perpendicular bisector. Couple little, you won't want to miss out on the funnies. Oof. Really funny. Okay, last one here. Use your own graph paper for this. And so we have two hospitals. We have Ridgehaven and Sunport, and then we have this person where they live, and we want to know where they're closest to. So the first thing you want to do is plot the points. Okay, so this is the person right here. And you want to know if they're closer to S or closer to R. Well, I mean, it looks like they're closer to S. And we could find that by just doing Pythagorean theorem and finding the distance. You could do a distance formula. But they said, can you find the point midway between the hospitals? So that's one of the questions they're asking. So that's saying the midpoint. Okay. So again, the midpoint is just the average of the x's. So the average of 6 and negative 8, to average two numbers, you add them up, divide by 2. Add them up, you get negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Average of the y is 5 plus negative 9 is negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So right here is the midpoint. Okay, that's the point we're going to use to find this dividing line. Then we need to find the slope of SR and use the opposite reciprocal. Okay, so the slope of between the two hospitals would be the change in y, which is 5 minus -9, over the change in x, which is -8 minus 6. So we have 14 over -14. So the slope is -1. This line, the slope of this line is -1. So my equation of my perpendicular bisector is going to be +1. I'm going to plug in my points. So my equation of my line is y equals x, or 1x minus 1. X minus 1 looks about like that. And so you can see that she's closer to that hospital. So what I want you to see from this is that anybody on this side of the perpendicular bisector, no matter where they live, they could be all the way over here, is closer to that hospital. And anybody over here, even someone that lives right there, they're closer to this hospital. That's what a Voronoi diagram will do when we get to those next week. Okay, so you can take a look at the 4 problems. We're going to work on those in class, the application problems. But keep working on your IA. Remember that we have new resources, sample IAs on Canvas. Hope you have a good weekend.